I'm certainly being treated as the figurehead of something, even if nobody can define it, and our enemies
Enemies! We need enemies!
would describe it as
skeptic community.
I've never liked this label, firstly because it represents only a reaction to something else, and secondly because it means we are allowing our enemies
Enemies! We need enemies!
to define us. The word community means the condition of sharing or having certain attitudes and interests in common. There's a lot of resistance in the skeptic community to this term, probably because of the homogeneous nature of other communities on the internet, but it is an accurate description of what we are. I've never liked this label. There's no reason not to use the term.
Of my critique of the so-called skeptics, many of which now call themselves liberalists.
I think that's an important distinction to make, the so-called skeptics, because that's what we were so-called by people who opposed us. I'm not worried about how the enemies
We'll send the enemy to hell and worse!
of liberalism will view it, or what they'll try to do with it.
And
That's
what
why we have
people
to-
are you disagreeing with? Because you talked about your enemies in that video. So who are your
The
enemies?
SJWs and the alt-right.
No, it's true. I got their names written down right here in what I call my, enemies list.
Jane Fonda, Daniel Shore, Jack Anderson. Hey! This is Richard Nixon's enemies list. You just crossed out his name and put yours.
Okay, give me that. Give me back. Bonnie Gumble.
Oh.
Any
So the
collectivists-
okay, wait, no. So the alt-right is your enemy.
Yeah, have you not looked at the way they treat me?
In this atmosphere of us versus them, Coulson's office began an ever-expanding list of Nixon's critics, the enemies list. Its object was to screw our political enemies.
Did they not treat you kindly?
Do you think they did?
You said you're going to counter SJWs, but the alt-right is also your enemy. So what are you going to do to counter them?
Nothing, they're irrelevant. Sargon is irrelevant. Buddy, you don't have to tell irrelevant people that they're irrelevant.
So if they're irrelevant, why are they counted amongst your enemies?
Because they're people who oppose me.
Oppose you or liberalism?
Me and liberalism.
Are you the group? Is it like your thing?
personally am not the group.
Do you hear the voices too?
All right, say that again. You cut out a little.
I personally am not a group, no.
No, but you said, I said you define them as our
Jim,
enemies.
I know what you're trying to do.
You think that you are more intelligent than you are, and that is
I-
a
you're a
difficult
mind
place
reader
for you
now.
to be.
I know that you think this is like, you think that
I'm
want
asking you
power
really
over
simple
people or
questions.
something.
You said
think
our
I want
enemies,
to be
and you
control
listed them as
something?
SJWs and alt-right. And
Yeah.
then when I said, what are you going to do to counter them? You're like, well, they're mean to me. It seems to be
No,
specific
I
to
didn't.
you.
I didn't say that they were mean to me after you said, what are you going to do to counter them? Any
So the alt, okay, wait, no. So the alt-right is your enemy.
Yeah, have you not looked at the way they treat me?
Did they not treat you kindly?
Do you think they did?
You said you're going to counter SJWs, but the alt-right is also your enemy. So what are you going to do to counter them?
Well,
So
I'm
nobody's
fucking doing
speaking
it.
out against that.
Fucking no, mate. Honestly, you get
Nobody's speaking out against transgender 4-year-olds.
You will find, I don't know, some conservative politician somewhere who gets roundly lambasted on social media, but they don't know anything about the underlying philosophy. They don't understand any of this.
Republicans are so stupid. I hate Republicans. Republicans are so stupid.
You're an alt-right male?
An alt-right male?
You're fucking a white male!
And
That's
what
why we have to
people
talk.
are you disagreeing with? Because you talked about your enemies in that video. So who are your
Yeah, the
enemies?
SJWs and the alt-right.
An alt-right male?
I'm going to tell them I was the last cool kid on the internet.
That's how you feel, though. Everyone can fucking see it.
Oh, is that how I feel?
God,
No, I'm
colour am I
describing
thinking?
reality. I'm describing this
What colour am I
experience with you.
You're telling me what I think, so what color? Come on. And you know that you think that what we're doing is actually ultimately going to be beneficial.
Oh, give me a break.
Sargon.
Read that.
No, don't give you. You just told me what I think. I don't know. What
I
you
didn't
think.
tell you what you
But I-
think.
This is like levels of pedantry I can't even begin to describe.
And I think this is cringy as fuck. And I think that if you, perpetuate this for like 6 months to 8 months, the amount of shit you got in the past is going to pale compared to what you're going to get in the future.
And it was very shortly thereafter that Nixon authorized the plumbers, the creation of a special group to stop leaks, and they began to take extra legal steps and put into motion the mechanism which ultimately resulted in the downfall of the administration.
But no one seems to have come up with anything better, so I'm happy to just go with liberalist. I didn't choose the label liberal because it takes too much work to dissociate from the term progressivism, but I'm going to choose the stupid term liberalist and argue endlessly over the name. No, I think the argument over the name's finished. It seems that everyone's on board with it, and I don't think we've got a better name anyway. Firstly, the name sucks. Well, if you have a better one, man, you can always propose it. I'm happy to listen, I've always been happy to listen, but nobody has a better one, and it seems that everyone's just okay with it, so I think we should just go with it. But there is no difference between calling yourself a liberal and calling yourself a liberalist. Yes, there is. There's a big difference. Because being a liberal is a state of potential. It's not doing anything. It's just saying these are my beliefs. But being a liberalist is someone who is an activist for these beliefs. I mean, if liberals want to sit around and go, well, I don't need to do anything because I'm a liberal, then they're going to find themselves without much liberalism around them. Frankie Ashworth, don't call yourselves liberalist, just liberals, please. Yeah, but that's not an activist. That's not someone who's making something happen, who wants to push for something. A liberal activist is a liberalist. In the same way as an activist for socialism is a socialist. I don't see the problem with this. Do you have any objections? Other than tribalism, I mean? Our enemies, the enemies of liberalism. And if you have a better idea, I'm all ears. I don't want to be doing this, but I have to be doing this. Someone has to be doing something, and the alt-right aren't going to do anything. Why don't you just stop being snarky? You're going to sound like an emotionally abusive girlfriend, because that's how the alt-right sounds to me at the moment. We love you, but don't do this, please, just do what we say. Nah. But to me, this just seems really catty and petty. I know that that's hard to understand if you're alt-right, because reading is something you guys don't really like. But I do think that perhaps applying maybe the principle of charity to any kind of intellectual discourse might be to everyone's benefit, Michelle. Cuddles again? Wow, this is weird. It looks like a kind of astroturfing campaign from the alt-right, doesn't it? Like they're kind of weak. But doing this is hardly going to make me think, oh, I need to contact this person, because this person seems like they want a conversation.
Have you not looked at the way they treat?
I'm not... Honestly, I've got no real interest in the alt-right after this. The alt-right are a non-issue. They own nothing. They control nothing. They're going to make nothing. They're going to change nothing. I mean, if the alt-right want to go away and do their own thing tomorrow, okay. I'm never going to have to speak to them again because they're never going to do anything in real life. Sargon is irrelevant. Buddy, you don't have to tell irrelevant people that they're irrelevant.
They're saying two different things to us. They're saying, one, you don't exist. No one cares about you. Everyone hates you. Your ideas are stupid. You're irrelevant. You're nothing. They're saying that. And then at the exact same breath, they're putting us in their Hollywood movies. They're putting us in their TV shows. They're obsessing over us on their tweets. They're making YouTube parodies and videos, and we are consuming. We are getting free rent in their brain all day.
Yeah.
And so what I sort of realized, that because I was so, these little creeps like Vic Berger and I have stalkers that will dedicate their entire days to trying to piss me off or make content about me. And so it got to a certain point where I realized I'm like, you can have 1 million people say you're irrelevant, but then you have 1 million people talking about you and thinking about
Right.
you. And they say, you're irrelevant. We hate you. Okay, well, all of us, because you keep saying that and you keep obsessing over me, now I'm relevant. So thank you. I mean, thank you. I guess we do owe our haters, we owe these vile people for being so stupid to obsess over us.
Widow's Son, again. God, it doesn't seem weird spamming my comment section with non-arguments, does it?
Not an argument.
The Liberal List, the place Kraut and Tea keeps your information. It's not a criticism.
It's not an argument.
Ku Klux Turtle says skepticism TM plus TM. Is that a criticism? I mean, you could say it's liberalism minus progressivism, if you want, because that's what we're actually going for. But is that a criticism? Oh, great. The LJW movement is official. I'm not sure what that's meant to stand for, like Liberal Justice Warriors or something. Okay. Is that a criticism? What? It's not an argument.
It's not an argument.
You understand that none of these are arguments. I mean, I can point you to a rather good channel that you can watch, and a guy on that channel can explain to you what an argument is and how you're failing at making arguments, if you want.
Suck it up and deal with it. Just suck. I mean, I don't know what to say. Be a man. Be an adult. Be mature. And say, wow, it turns out that I did something wrong.
And if what you're calling a fall from grace is actually Sargon isn't in agreement with the alt-right, I have some news for you, buddy. I'm not. Laying out sets of principles is totally cringe. I forgot. What is this 12-point manifesto of the alt-right? Is this cringe too? This sounds like some real fucking cringe. I mean, doing things, writing out statements of principles and manifestos. Holy fuck, the cringe. The fucking... You know, I better downvote that cringe. I'm not going to read it or watch it or anything like that, because that's just cringe. Doing things is cringe. But hey, I'm sure you were a diehard supporter of mine until I decided that I wasn't just going to let the world be ruled by a bunch of SJWs. How awful and cringy that is. God, why won't I get some sense of self-awareness? Why do I feel the need to actually do something? Don't worry about the alt-right's manifesto, though. That's not cringe. That's totally legitimate. Because it's alt-right. Because it's our manifesto, isn't it? That's what you're saying. Okay, well, this one isn't. Just deal with it, I guess. Yeah, it's my fans who are definitely against liberalism. I know that you are okay with the SJWs taking over, buddy. I know you are, because you want to stop any attempt not.
How about a little fire, Scarecrow?
Robert Macklin. Sargon, I've enjoyed, blah, blah, blah. I cannot support your recent moves. I think there will always be an audience for those guys like I mentioned, but I believe you're striking a fatal blow to your momentum and the credibility of channels like yours who are in opposition to the radicals of the left and right. I don't see how that's true, Robert. And you don't go on to explain it. I think that if you want to succeed in your opposition, you should look to the projects Jordan Peterson has begun undertaking. It seems to me that looked at his skills, made the tools to give the individuals the means to help navigate these politics on their own. He wants to build a free market online university, while sometimes he does seem to grandstand. He appears to have his hands in the dirt getting to work. What do you think I'm doing? Do you think me founding a website and like registering an organization and then putting on live streams, am I not getting my hands in the dirt, Robert? You don't have a better solution. And if you did, you would have put it in thing. I understand your concerns, and I'm sorry if I sound angry, but no one has a better solution. No one has any goddamn solution. If you would deign to come down from your lofty perch for a moment, Michelle, you strike me as drifting towards having your head more in the clouds, and I don't think people are liking it. Honestly, I don't care what people like and what people don't like. I'm doing what is necessary to be done. And honestly, I think the alt-right doesn't like it. People like me will become increasingly less receptive. That's fine. Don't be receptive. Go and join the alt-right, go and join the SJWs, go and join whichever movement it is you think suits you better. I'd be happy to talk to you. I think you've probably got a lot of value to say. Secondly, stop shitting on people like libertarians who are in no way against you guys. Yeah, they are, though. They are against us.
So if they're irrelevant, why are they counted amongst your enemies?
Because they're people who oppose me. They cannot bring themselves to accept the idea of legitimate government. And if there are libertarians who can, then they are more than welcome to join us. This is the thing that libertarians need to struggle with. If they can't accept that, then okay, but we're not in conjunction with them, even if on other points of principle we agree. An individualist is a universalist. They want everyone to be treated the same by the state. So I'm not seeing any legitimate criticism here. I'm not seeing any arguments against what we're doing being wrong. I'm just seeing arguments from people who don't want us to do it. And of course there are people who don't want us to do it because we're going to be in opposition to them. So I don't think I'll be taking the advice of my enemies.
Enemies! We need enemies!
I think I'll be carrying on as I am. And I don't see the point of this other than trying to improve your own status at my expense.
It's a difficult place for you to...
Now, if that's what you're doing, just admit it. I think she does have a clue what she's talking about, actually, Coles. But I think she is being tribalistic. I'd rather us not be enemies. I don't see what either of us would gain by being at odds with one another. I really don't. Dan Doc. I see Sargon has continued to make a goddamn fool of himself. This stream was utter cringe. Does Sargon have no sense of self-awareness? I feel I have let myself down for thinking the guy was intelligent. It's a shame to see people fall so publicly, but pride comes before the fall, they say. Do you spend a lot of time supporting me, Dan? Because it kind of looks like you might be opposed to me. I'm just saying how you seem to be directly in opposition to me. You seem to be part of the alt-right. I mean, I'm not saying that you're lying. I'm just saying your history makes you look like you're lying. I'm just, you know, it's all public. Didn't take me long to look.
This is all so tiring. Long-time subscriber. Sargon, like the easily offended jackass who can't take criticism that he is, responded to this comment with, OP is not subscribed to me and is subscribed to alt-right channels. White Takia. Sargon then made a response video called White Takia of him perusing the commenter's subscriber list, which was supposed to serve as a kind of gotcha moment because he couldn't find either himself or the thinkery on his subscriber list. That video has since been made private. Subject Baguette then, on his alternate account Ethan Wygard, then posted a quick response showing that William was indeed subbed to Sargon after all. Sargon was just too much of a stupid idiot to click on the subscriber tab to show all of his subs. With that, Sargon made himself look like an idiot. Again, who was so thin-skinned he had to personally respond to one out of 1,000 people because his egotistical self just couldn't handle the thought of a long-time subscriber disagreeing with him, much less being tired of his antics. As I said, Sargon privated the video, and I'm kicking myself now for not having downloaded it when I had the chance.
But before I go on, I should really be clear. I am actually a social liberal. I'm not a classical liberal. The white race is a social construct. The phrase, the white race, that in itself is a social construct. It is not a description of the genetic makeup of white people. Let me explain. White people are being defined in the white race as people who have light skin. And that's it. That is the ideological construct that is the white race. And that's what Millennial Woes is talking about. And that's what Rocking Mystery is talking about as well. As you can see, this is a map of haplogroups across Europe. And you can see there's quite a lot of variation. Which is why if we take, say, a Greek man, say Alexis Tsipras, you can see that he doesn't look much like a Swedish man, like Dolph Lundgren, but he does look quite a lot like a Syrian man, such as Bashar al-Assad. In fact, Bashar al-Assad is whiter than Alexis Tsipras. So are Syrians now white people? The answer is, of course, no. But the question is, are Greeks white people? And the answer is no. Because the Greeks will never actually be Northern Europeans, which is what most people think of when they think of white. Unless, of course, swarthy, olive-skinned men are now white, in which case the entire Mediterranean, such as the Middle East, Egypt and North Africa, are also white people. This is why the term white people is actually really not very useful. No matter how much the alt-right may despise me, and I them, and no matter how much whatever group you consider yourself to be a part of disagrees in points of policy with the liberalists, we are all ultimately on the same team because our interests have all converged. That includes classical liberals, that includes liberalists, who I wouldn't distinguish between them and classical liberals, frankly. If they can't accept that, then okay, but we're not in conjunction with them, even if on other points of principle we agree. But this whole like disavowal sort of culture, it's like you must disavow this person. It's like, even if they don't necessarily agree on everything, there will be a certain section of things that they agree on. For example, if I have a conversation with Millennial Woes, I might not agree on white identity, but I certainly will agree with him on immigration. And that makes us both in the same camp. So that gives us a shared mutual interest. Our enemies, the enemies of liberalism.
If we say the European race or the African race,
wow,
does that make more sense objectively in your mind?
Well, it's not really very accurate. That's the problem, because then you're going to start saying, well, Hungarians are European, aren't they?
Well, I would say Hungarians are European. I would say basically
what? I mean, the language is Ugaric or something. It comes from Inner Asia, because they were a nomadic group of horse-mounted.
Okay, so we got. I mean, the one thing to say there though is we kind of get into a little bit of a cultural thing there. So if we just talk about the genetic side of things here,
yeah.
Wouldn't we say that Europe is made up of the north, south, and east? You know, some people talk about the central. Go on.
I don't think anyone would deny that there are higher Arabs in the Middle East. Persians themselves are kind of a tricky question. I mean, that they are to some degree Aryan. I mean, the word Iran means Aryan. I don't think anyone would deny that. I do think there is a very stark cultural divide between those two. But yeah, I mean, just because you could, I mean, the Arab, as a race is a bit of a mixture. It's not too dissimilar from mestizos in Latin America. It's very highly variegated.
Be clear for people, I'm no expert on any of this. I find that this is often coming from like American political discourse.
Of my critique of the so-called skeptics, many of which now call themselves liberalists. I think that's an important distinction to make, so-called skeptics, because that's what we were so-called by people who opposed us. So if they're relevant, why are they counted amongst your enemies? Because they're people who oppose me. There's a lot of resistance in the skeptic community to this term, probably because of the homogenous nature of other communities on the internet, but it is an accurate description of what we are. There's no reason not to use the term.
But these mafia guys have one thing right. The one thing a man wants more than anything in this world is to be treated with respect. That's the key. Disagree with me, yes, but disagree with respect.
Oh, that's true.
Would you like some cottage cheese with ketchup?
No, thank you, sir.
Then I like my steaks well done with ketchup, thank you very much.
Disrespect a mafia don, and you become his enemy. And bang, bang, you get whacked. Now, wouldn't you suppose that the president of the United States deserves at least as much respect as a mafioso? And if not, shouldn't we take action?
You're not suggesting that we whack our enemies?
Not with a gun, no. But hear me out on this. If we made up a list of all our enemies, the bastards in the pinko liberal Jew-dominated press, like that prick Dan Rather and that cocksucker
Daniel Shore,
or the big celebrity liberals like Paul Newman or what's his name, Hanoi Jane Fonda.
An enemies list.
An enemies list.
And if you don't like it, you don't have to follow me. You don't have to support me. You don't have to watch.
Well, that there is